Right, guys, we're going to be checking out every EMIYA from weakest to strongest from C of 4. From the top of my head, obviously, I haven't watched every single rendition of EMIYA. I do not know every single version, but I imagine probably in the upper rankings there would be Archer EMIYA, of course, and also Oath Under Snow Shiro. Thinking one of those two. And that's the ones I can come up with. I think Heaven's Feel Shiro might be up there. I have no idea. Then again, there's like a whole speculation on whether Heaven's Feel Shiro is stronger than UBW Shiro or UBW Shiro is stronger than Heaven's Feel Shiro. I have no idea. Me personally, I'm leaning towards Heaven's Feel Shiro being stronger because he was able to beat Saber Alter and he was able to beat Heracles. So that was, yeah. Let's just go into it.
All right, so this is a topic that I had planned to do prior anyway, and we were already in that neck of the woods, so I said, you know what, why not? We're going to be ranking every main EMIYA from weakest to strongest.
Let's do it.
By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you guys sign up for the Patreon. You get access to early content and priority on your requests. And for anybody that's new here and don't know how things go, we tend to do it skill over power first, unless the power is too much to be quantified. So considering that, the first person we're going to be looking at and the overall weakest is Fate Route Shiro. And we addressed this a bunch of times before. His main feat, of course, would be him generating his Caliburn when they were going against Hurt, the same one that allowed for Saber to kill him 7 times over. Still remains to be one of the best feats from him in the series. However, outside of that, he's not doing too much in the route because the route itself is structured around the very world building of Fate in general. Not only that, but just getting into the basis of Shiro and EMIYA as a character. So there's not too much that he's doing here. I will give him some points for his fight against Kirei that he had at the end of the route when they were doing their one-on-one. With the help of the Azoth that Ren gave him, he did manage to weave his way around the Grail Mud without any type of reinforcement or somebody coming to save him, and just completely using strategies of his own. He was able to not only overcome Kirei, but the Grail Mud itself, which we can see just how he was responding from the times that he was hit or submerged. They could have easily taken his life, and he still managed to take down Kirei in the end. And this is considering all of the knowledge that Kirei has in terms of fighting, even though he wasn't necessarily focused on his martial arts side during the fight, because that's not necessarily what it was about. And Kirei was in fact out of his prime. Still impressive nonetheless. I will say, if you want to reach and go a little further and extend this by throwing Shiro a bone and giving him the last episode, just the mental fortitude and the effort that will be required for him to meet back up with Artoria in Avalon. We're talking about a 1 in a million chances, and he still pulled it off. That would definitely bring him up somewhere towards the middle of the list. But I'm mainly centering this around his base form. Next up,
that more so sounds like an outlier rather than an legitimate feat. I mean, it is a legitimate feat to an extent, but yeah, like I don't know if he can replicate that same thing.
UBW Shiro, an old school classic.
So he's putting Heaven's Feel over UBW. Okay, got it.
You guys should be well aware how the story goes. Through the intervention of Archer jumping through time, Shiro was able to have his one-on-one against him, and by doing so, he was able to acquire the knowledge that it would take to summon things such as his reality marble, UBW, early. This, coupled with the fact that he temporarily borrowed the Magic Crest energy from Ren, gave him access to pretty much being Archer about 20 years early. And we can see that he used this against Gilgamesh to his full capacity.
Imagine Archer EMIYA fought Gilgamesh.
Even going as far to defeat him in a 1v1 through his reality marble. We find out that EMIYA is actually an ultimate counter to Gilgamesh. So the novel does tell us that UBW fires slightly faster than the Gate of Babylon can keep up with, just like the situation with Kirei. This was through the fact that he caught Gil by surprise. Also had Archer to come in and help him towards the end, but again, still doesn't change the fact that Gil is one of the strongest servants in the entire franchise to this day. Plus, you had Gil overestimating himself underestimating Shiro,
Yeah.
it's still something that
Tends to happen.
you can't take away from him. Next up, we got
Okay, so yeah, I think the reason, and well, for my personal reasoning, I think the reason why I would put UBW Shiro below Heavensfield Shiro is because UBW Shiro literally stated in the anime that had I fought any other servant, I would have lost. I'm only winning because it's you I'm up against. So, and Heavensfield Shiro beat Heracles and Saber Alter. So, it's kind of pretty obvious, actually.
Mating Shiro, it's still something that you can't take away from him. Next up, we got Heavensfield Shiro. And I know it sounds crazy that I'm going through a straight line like this. I promise it's just coincidence. But for Heavensfield Shiro, knowing his situation in that route, he did acquire Archer's arm, so he was able to take the driver's seat for majority of the route in comparison to what he was capable of doing.
Yeah, he had access to like current Archer EMIYA rather than in UBW where, you know, as Sia said, 20 years prior. So
in the other two, and in doing so, by having Archer's arm, we do see that he's able to hold his own in situations like him going against the darkened Heracles, where he used his 9-bullet revolver to straight up obliterate Heracles in literal seconds. Again, Heracles is also one of the strongest in the franchise, and although he did have the arm of a heroic spirit, Shiro's still a human, so this is huge by any standard. Situations like him ensuring the survival of Medusa when she was going against Salter by the help of his Roias deflecting majority of her Excalibur Morgan blast, that's huge in and of itself, especially considering that Medusa is a servant. She should be able to hold her own, and she still had Shiro be the one to come in and make sure that they were able to make it out okay. But the greatest thing that I find is something that comes from one of the bad ends, and of course that is the Sparks Liner High ending. We've covered that on the channel also, where you have Shiro go up against Salter in the exact same situation, but this time around it's a 1v1.
yeah, because Medusa, I guess he didn't have enough friendship points with Medusa, so she didn't agree to go with him, so he had to take matters in his own hands, literally.
So he has Archer's arm, he's utilizing the best of his techniques, the best of his abilities, his movements, his strategies, he's using overedge, and he actually was able to beat Salter even while still being a human. However, he wasn't able to finish her off and get the kill because his body had timed out on him and he literally self-destructed before he finally finished the match. So given a circumstance where he actually...
And the crazy thing is, like, even if it was just regular Archer EMIYA against Saber Alter, that still would have been a terrible match. That still would have been very disadvantageous for him because, you know, obviously Saber Alter and Archer EMIYA are like, if we're just looking at base stat power, the difference is night and day. So the fact that Shiro, with one arm of Archer EMIYA, who still would have had an issue with Saber Alter, managed to almost eke out a win against Saber Alter 1v1, that's really impressive.
Capable of going forward, yet another top servant that he was able to take out by his own right. That's a big win on his part. Coming in next, we have EMIYA Assassin, aka Counter Guardian Kiritsugu. Really dope transition from his original self. We know from the main canon that Kiritsugu is a person that was able to win the 4th Grail War by his own strategies. So if you consider his potential in that right, added on to the fact that now he's a servant, he still has his Thompson contender. His power has been massively increased.
Well, that makes sense. Servants are stronger than masters, obviously, so yeah.
His speed has been taken up to match, and with him now being a counter guardian, he essentially has bolstered his strategy game tenfold, considering that that's literally what a counter guardian bases their entire existence around. Under regular circumstances, he's given many people a lot of trouble. It's unfortunate the robbery of the amount of screen time that he doesn't get, because it's very obvious that he would be able to take down many servants. But even knowing that, I gotta bring him at least here. Muramasa, that being the same swordsmith that hijacked Shiro's body.
That is
but
badass.
It is Shiro's body nonetheless, so we gotta give him the credit first.
I guess.
In this variant, Muramasa does have his own version of a reality marble that extends from Shiro's experience. The body of
Technicality,
Shiro
I
being
guess.
around 28 at this time. We can see through the story of Shimosa that Muramasa was able to perfect his blade that can cut through concepts, which is a huge feat that only a certain certain amount of servants can replicate, cutting through things such as fate, karma, and destiny. And even through the story of Shimosa, we've seen that when Amakusa Shiro tried to use his reality marble, Muramasa was able to chop through the entire thing like it didn't exist. He's tackled multiple servants with Kirei and Lost Belt 5.
Yeah, I would say you're pretty strong if you can cut through concepts. Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say that's a good indicator of whether or not you're a strong person.
Being said through the story that they couldn't hold a candle to them, and I will give him some points of his survival against Fairy Knight Lancelot, although he wasn't capable of
Lancelot handed me my ass and tossed me right into the pit. Listen, listen. I think just surviving a fight against Lancelot is a defeat in itself. So
defeating her,
I consider that a feat.
Powerful Lancelot. Although he wasn't capable of defeating her, she is an extremely powerful servant, one of the highest as of late, especially in that chapter itself. It's a lot to hang up with, but he did survive being chucked into a massive hole, which under normal circumstances, most servants wouldn't have been able to get back out of. That's a huge nod to his level of survival, just wasn't able to secure the win. Then we got Miyuverse Shiro, a personal community favorite. We see by the help of Shiro using the Archer card that he was able to actualize himself as his own variation of EMIYA and pretty much beat everybody in the war except Angelica in one night.
This is what I was saying.
Soloed an entire Grail war in a night, just learning about these powers outright. He was still young at the time, and he's beating people like the Ainsworths, even though they had the King Arthur card, or Canef, even though he was merged with Cuchulainn. The man is a literal beast here, and you gotta give him his credit. Next we have EMIYA Alter, he too being one that has reached his counter guardian state. He's a lot more brutal than normal, so on top of everything that he's known before, he does have his own version of Shiro's reality marble, Unlimited Lost Works, and I'm really surprised to have him here because a while back I would have had him further back on the list, but if you guys have been following the channel, with the recent updates that we've had this past year, it's pretty much been confirmed that Mind of Steel Shiro leads into the EMIYA Alter variant. So if we take that into consideration, we also have to bring the Mind of Steel bad end from Heaven's Field into the equation. And by the knowledge of that bad end,
so power scaling, yeah.
And we know that Shiro, on his Dolly, was able to solo the Grail War and even confirm that he would take out everybody that was in it. This includes Zoken, Ren, Ilya, and anybody else that happened to get involved as well. You have to consider that Salter was still there, Herc, and even Cursed Arm Hassan was still around. Not saying he's the one that dealt with all of them specifically, but he's still the one that came out on top.
I mean, that's still impressive.
Huge. Next we have base form EMIYA, and this is pretty much every EMIYA that's involved throughout the first 3 routes. So this is where we give him the feats of going against Heracles in the first route and beating him 6 times before he finally lost his life, surviving against Cuchulainn and UB-Dub by the use of his Ro Ias, even though Cuchulainn used a phantasm against him that should have finished him off with relative ease, or even his survival in the Heaven's Field route when he was protecting the squad against the Shadow itself, which is essentially a borderline omnipotent existence, at least by his standard as a servant, and he was still able to survive, protect them, and still get off the
yeah, that big ass Ro Ias from the second Heaven's Field movie was crazy.
Transplant that he
I was making a joke during that reaction. It's like, yo, this shield sucks because it keeps breaking. Well, obviously because he's guarding against the strongest attacks known to man. Yeah, of course it's gonna break.
And with Shiro in that same route. Moving right along, we have Counter Guardian EMIYA. This should have been fairly obvious. He's being empowered by the world. He has eons worth of experience from fighting some of the strongest creatures, some of the strongest humans, dealing with some of the worst circumstances throughout several points in history, and still living to tell the tale. This would just be his base form, bolstered to whatever degree the world decides to give him, but whatever that degree is, it definitely will be better than anything a regular servant can handle, a regular human can handle, and some of the best potential that we've ever seen him be be capable of. And lastly, you guys should already know, you may have missed the video where I covered it, but without a shadow of a doubt, we do know that Fate Extra EMIYA is confirmed to be the strongest out of all variants.
Yes, because extra, because he's EMIYA but extra.
Right, by the laws of the Extraverse, not only is he pretty much
I'm thinking of watching Extra Last Encore. I actually want to check that out, but I don't know if I need to play the games to get more context of the story, or I could just watch the story because it's just the adaptation of Extra. I don't know.
In terms of strength, in terms of speed, in terms of utility, unlike his other forms. But this goes even further when you have him go up against an actual premeditated beast, that being Kiara. Plus, considering his fight against BB in the main storyline, where he's bolstered by his very own unique mystic code, this being his mythological mystic code.
That's fire.
And the reason this is so devastating is because the very fact that he was able to hang with these entities mean that this code is at least light speed in terms of travel, because travel speed and movement speed aren't the same, and going into beast territory in terms of power. There's nobody on this list that can top a feat coming in close to that. You do have EMIYA Alter going against Kiara, but that was just him cleaning up the scraps, and outside of the support that the story forcibly gives you, they do give it to all the main servants. This is him real deal facing off against these entities on his own merits.
That's fair.
Whatever form he decides to come in, you will be in a ride for an impressive showcase.
All of them are strong. All of them are like very strong. Again, even Fate Shiro, which is at the bottom, he was still like able to do work against like all the other people and all the other servants. So I mean, yeah, I mean he's weak, but like I'd say he's doing very well given his base kit compared to everyone else. But yeah, that was a really interesting one. So I kind of was I wasn't right. I was assuming just like EMIYA, Archer EMIYA that we saw in the 3 Fate routes was the strongest, which I knew it probably wasn't true, but I knew he was like one of the strongest versions. But you know, just Fate Extra, I don't know, I barely know anything about Fate Extra because you guys saw my reaction when the guy was trying to explain what Fate Extra was in that like Fate Explained video. You guys saw me literally get brain fried in real time. So yeah, obviously I don't know much about that, but he put Counter Guardian, like the Archer EMIYA, when he was alive, he put that as stronger than the servant. So maybe when, yeah, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, right? I guess that kind of makes sense because like with some figures, when they get summoned as servants, they don't have the entire personality, they don't have the entire kit that the real person has. So sometimes they're actually going to be weaker when they get summoned out. But yeah, so I guess that makes sense, right? I guess that makes sense for EMIYA. The counter force when he was like still working, when he was still alive. I guess that makes sense because, you know, when he got summoned as an archer class, like I wonder if like his other attacks, his other like equipments and his other attack skills got hit with a nerf, because you're supposed to be an archer. So obviously you're supposed to do that. But, you know, he fights with, like, knives and daggers. So, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Right? But, yeah, great video again. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.